My story goes back to a kid who grew up in a broken family. My mom and dad divorced whenever I was around 7 years old, and really during that whole period of time in my life as a kid, my father was struggled with alcohol abuse and drank a lot, and really my mom and dad weren't really together a whole lot. And so it was one of those times in my life as a child where you don't realize just how insecure you are and how much insecurity is really being put into your life. And so my mom and dad divorced whenever I was 7, and I grew up the next several years of my life really having no idea who I was. But later on down the road, my mother remarried, and my stepdad came into my life, and he really took me under his wing and didn't treat me like a stepchild in any kind of way. He just loved me like his own son. And today we don't have a relationship that's weird or awkward. It's like he's my dad. Mm-hmm. But during that period of time of me growing up from a child to a teenager, I really got into a lot of jacked up stuff, and got into doing some drugs and a lot of alcohol, and I thought that the way I could fill the void in my heart, and I didn't even know that it was a void that was really there. You just feel empty, but I kept trying to just put stuff in there to make me feel happy at the moment, or feel cool or popular, or like you have friends, and so I partied a lot and played sports and kept thinking that I was going to fill that void of insecurity and fear and rejection with other stuff, and it just never happened. Ultimately, I grew up through my high school years trying to chase some dream of feeling like I had it all together, but ultimately I didn't have it all together. And there were times that a lot of people don't even know this, I don't even really talk about it, but there were times in my life where I wanted to commit suicide. There was one time I actually remembered holding a pistol in my hand and just asking myself the question, is life really worth even living anymore? But on the outside, a lot of people look at my life and think, well, you played sports and you got a good family and all this kind of stuff, that your life must just be okay. But really there was something that was dying inside of me, and probably the only reason why I didn't do it was because I just didn't really know where I would end up. I kind of knew about this idea of being, there being a heaven or hell, and I just didn't know if I was going to end up in a worse place than the way I felt, and so I think that probably kind of stopped me from doing it. Mm-hmm. But it didn't stop the pain, it didn't stop my struggle, it didn't stop the habits that I had in my life that were really destructive, and it wasn't until in 1995 when I graduated from high school that I went to Europe to tour singing with this choir that I've met God really for the first time. He spoke to me in a very real audible way. But let me back up for a second, because before that happened, actually I was 15 years old and I went to a church camp, and this is how messed up I was. I actually took alcohol to this church camp because I was like, you know what? It's probably going to be boring, so I'm going to make sure I have a party and have a good time with myself. And I don't even know if my parents even know that I did that. They probably didn't. They probably killed me over it. But I got there, and I remember this one particular night, man, they brought this cross up to the stage, and God just started moving in this auditorium in such a powerful way. This man stands up and he says, if you have any sin in your life, I want you to walk up here to this cross and take one of these nails and this hammer and nail it to this cross. And dude, out of nowhere, I had never felt conviction before. I never felt God's presence like this before, but I just knew that I brought all this alcohol to this church camp and I was totally messed up. And I walked up there and I remember nailing it to that cross. And I went back to my dorm that night and I dumped out and poured out all my alcohol, and I was totally wrecked. And it was like Jesus Christ really met me as a 15-year-old and touched my heart and my life. And I went and met with a counselor afterwards and told him what I did, and he prayed for me. And so that was around when I was around 15. But from the time I was 15 till I graduated from high school, I kind of hit this roller coaster where I just started kind of going up and down with a lot of struggles again and trying to really wrestle with my identity. And so then it wasn't until I went to Europe in 1995 after I graduated from high school that God took me the next step forward. You know, He took me from just having an experience at a church camp to actually speaking to me pretty audibly when I was in Europe with this choir. And I walked out of a cathedral one day where we were singing, and I saw a number of teenage kids outside of this cathedral, and they were drinking and just kind of being loud and rowdy, and they started making these obscene gestures to the girls on our bus, and it was like the Holy Spirit just pressed pause for a minute, and I looked at them, and He said, Arnie, that's the way you've been living your life back home, and I want you to go back and reach those kind of people for me. And so I knew in my heart for the first time that not only had God touched my heart, but God was actually giving me an assignment, that God was calling me to go back and help people just like me, people who were broken, jacked up, messed up, had addictions, and to really reach this next generation of people with His love. And so I came back home after that trip and thought I was going to play baseball for the rest of my life, only to walk away from it all and to say, you know what, God, I just want to serve You with all my heart and just follow You all the days of my life. And I can say that He's healed my heart. He's taken away my addictions. He's given me a beautiful wife. He's given me beautiful children. And every single day is an amazing adventure just walking with Him and getting to know more about Him as He tells me more about how He feels about me and how much He loves me. So this is my story. This is my testimony, and I'm sticking to it.